Okay. Okay, everybody, we're going to get started here. Thank you. Just a quick introduction. I asked yesterday how many people are here for the first time and how many people outside the United States, and a lot of you want to talk about having a maker fair in your area. And if you do, I'd like to point out Sabrina Merlo here. She's the person on our team that coordinates all the mini maker fairs, and someone even asked you about doing MakerCons in like Singapore and other things. So come talk to us about it, and yeah. And you talk later today on a panel, and we'd love to learn more about it. We have 135 fairs around the world this year. Largely, Sabrina's talked to all of them. So, if you you have your producers workshop on Friday.
Yeah, we have an all-day workshop tomorrow for probably 40+ producers who travel all around the world to Maker Fair. Have a great
So if you'd like to learn how to produce a maker fair and do some of these things, you might attend that full day. But talk to Sabrina about that at lunch or after her talk. All right, we will get started here with, someone who I think really has contributed as much as anyone to the maker movement, in particular in creating something that we all know today as Arduino. But one of the things that I think has enabled the maker movement to take off is that we're using increasingly standardized components. And it means we are able to use them in different applications, different purposes, but we all can get together and say, well, I have this Arduino problem, or I have this code. And so it's become something. When I started the magazine, we didn't have that, and I could kind of see we needed it, because otherwise we'd have to be writing projects about these sort of different microcontrollers, and it's kind of hard. Now, today we actually have the same problem again, because there are lots of microcontrollers, lots of solutions. But in many ways, the standard is Arduino, and I wanted you to welcome Massimo Banzi to tell us more about what's happening there. Let's welcome to Massimo. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi. Good morning. So this is I think my fourth time in New York, so it's becoming a tradition. So one of the things I wanted to tell you about is a little bit of the work that we are doing in Arduino about, what they call the Internet of Things or connected devices, that kind of stuff that's very popular right now. So I wanted to start off by basically talking about this, this question that everybody sort of has been thinking about, like, where's my connected fridge? So in a way, there's been a lot of talk, I guess, for the last 30 years about, these fridges, they're going to be connected to the internet, it's going to be amazing, they're going to solve all your problems. No? And then in the end, the companies do produce these things, but then people don't have them, so people don't buy them. So in a way, and there are even kind of blogs dedicated to this thing, like this, this the title is a little bit provocative, but the question is, why doesn't my fridge have the internet yet? And so I think it has to do a lot with the way things are designed. So I call my presentation the maker's way to these connected devices, because there's a lot of this, a lot of this IoT right now is in a way designed by this, kind of top down, like a bunch of engineers getting into a room and trying to think about, how people want to have their future, and then, doing this thing and say, here, it's done, it's a fridge, and it runs, it has the internet and everything, and then yet people don't buy it, So there is this kind of long story of, like, trying to get the technology maybe into the home with, like, some levels of failure. Like, this is a 1960s advertisement that says, if she can cook only as well as Honeywell can compute, I think that this is like a, like a terrible failure. But this is obviously this, I guess it's about people trying to design for things they don't understand, no? And obviously they fail miserably, no? But we are in a situation where the Internet of Things is that thing right there at the top of the peak of hype of the Gartner curve. So we're going to wait now for the whole thing to crash, and then it will be resurrected like a phoenix at some point, and probably, you know, it will be something, you know, which is much more closer, I guess, to what people exactly want, or the way they want it, and more than. And the example of what's happening right now is that everybody is making a consortium. So I have a few screenshots of, like, this is one consortium, this is a German consortium, this is another consortium. You see the number of companies like grows infinitely. No, everybody has got to have a consortium. No? So this is the UK consortium, that's like the German consortium. So more consortia that you can shake a stick at. And I guess the model for all these consortia is that, you know, don't worry, we're solving all the problems, just adopt our technology, just forget about it, we'll, you know. The other consortium, they're a bunch of losers, forget them, you know. Just stay with us, you know, your life is going to be perfect, we thought about it. You know, our engineers have been sitting in a room for months, they figured out exactly what you want, no? Somehow, you know, I found somewhere this article that says that there is a do-it-yourself smart home market that they expect that it will be worth $7.8 billion by 2019 in the US, no? And I think, you know, so there is this kind of contraposition between kind of the DIY market, you know, I want to have some kind of a control over the way my kind of connected world happens. And in, don't worry, the consortium knows what you want, and it will fix it for you. Because otherwise you end up in a situation where, you know, there is this kind of, you know, then there is this system that knows what you want. And even if you don't agree, it's just going to go ahead and do it, no? And so we don't want to go there. So we started to have a conversation internally, and also, you know, I am fairly cynical about all this stuff, and then later on in the presentation you will understand why I am like that and who I kind of absorb this cynicism from. But we started to look at ways where you could try to define maybe the approach to connected devices, or whatever you want to call it, starting from some kind of basic principles that kind of try to set us on the right foot. So basically in the 80s in Italy, I guess, who knows about slow food? I mean, it's a movement that started off in the mid-80s in Italy as a kind of a reaction to the arrival of McDonald's in Italy, you know, this idea of fast food, and people, you know, obviously in Italy were slightly particular about food and say, you know, that's not food. That's just stuff that you put in your mouth and produces calories that kind of get you going, but it's not food. So they started this movement about slow food, which is based on these three keywords. They say food must be good, clean, and fair. So there's a whole philosophy behind that. So in a way, I try to say, you know, can we start from similar points of view to figure out, you know, to come maybe to at some point to a manifesto. So at the moment, this thing is in no way finished, but I'm thinking about it, I'm working on it, I'm trying to figure out where we go in that direction. So in a way, for me, good translated to the IoT is, in a way, it's open source. In a way, we need open source tools and protocols and an implementation of those protocols so that anything that's kind of produced by this gigantic consortia at some point can be, in a way, saved and used somewhere else. And in a way, we have a track record of producing lots of open source technology, and we constantly release technologies to people that become part of the commons that people use. So you can see from this picture that this kind of a weirdo layout that we came up with in 2005, and I even made a mistake there, that stills with us right now, is becoming some kind of a standard. So some standards are better than others, but in a way this is kind of grown from the community. But in a way it's important to me to have all these kind of open protocols that are open source, and there are open source implementations, because it's starting to happen that, maybe you buy a product from a company, and that company get bought by a bigger, gigantic company, the classic Googles of the world, and then suddenly your product doesn't have a service to talk to anymore, no? And then suddenly you bought a piece of hardware that's going nowhere. So in a way, there is a concern around those aspects. The other thing about clean to me has a lot of different meaning, but in a way, in general, you could say against disposable design. This idea that you don't start to treat these kind of devices as something that you buy, they last 6 months, and then you chuck them away, or suddenly, again, the company that made your device gets bought by whoever and it stops working. So in a way, there was this nice relationship we used to have with objects, that you could buy a radio and you would love that radio and it would stay with you for a long time. And I understand the necessity of the market to get you to buy new gizmos every 6 months. But still, can we kind of meet somewhere in between? So in a way, I'm concerned about the long-term user experience and sustainability of this model. In a way, again, I would love to see products have a new life, being upgradable or being moved over to between different cloud providers, no? Because all these devices are connected to some kind of a cloud software thing. So we need to be able to kind of shift from one cloud to the other if I want to shift. And obviously this has to go through a lot of different business models, whatever. So, and also in a way, I'm particularly interested in design, and Arduino started off in a design school. So in a way, it didn't start off as a tool for engineers, it started off as a tool for designers. So in a way, at the moment, good design is still seen as some kind of a luxury, but in a way, good design started off as something to provide good products for as many people as possible. So in a way, design and technology should be more universally accessible and less be concerned as a luxury. And then fair, in a way, is try to figure out ways where you're not the product. Because the problem, again, in all these kind of free services is that you are the product. So you go to the bathroom, you flush your toilet, and suddenly there's an event generated on a cloud system that trigger off some big data transaction, and then suddenly, there's some, firing of messages, even queuing protocols across the planet because you flushed the toilet, no? And I would find, already, I would find it's like, it will happen. So I guess that in a way, if we can have some level of control over that happens. So since we're inevitably paired to an online service, we have to figure out ways where people are not the product there. No? So in a way, there's also trying to figure out how we can make this whole thing more secure. So there's a little hint in my presentation. On Friday afternoon, we'll have a little presentation about a new product we're working on that we will present at Maker Faire. So Friday night, there's an event where we explain something we're doing in that area. And but the idea is that I would like to be able to provide software that you can run by yourself if you want to, or if the certain service, you think it's not doing things correctly, you should be able to try to figure out a way to run it in a different way yourself. And again, this is all based on open protocols, open source implementation of these protocols, and accessibility of all this kind of information. So these are the three kind of area what I'm working on. The whole discussion there is in no way finished. There's a lot of work to be done, and you'll see probably different version of this talk in the near future where the thought starts to become more clear. But anyway, this is the direction where I'm moving, and we are working with a number of partners to build this kind of ideas into what we do. So we have a bunch of products that are kind of organized in different categories. But then when I was starting to look at the stuff we do on the software level as Arduino, over the years we started to layer a number of APIs. Between all the different, now the Arduino APIs that you use to code Arduino programs are running on MCUs, they're running on real-time operating systems, they're running on Linux, they're even running on Windows. So Microsoft ported Arduino to run on Windows running on the Galileo board, for example. So we have it started to become really like a generalized way to write programs that talk to hardware. And now we have the classical, so on top of the classic Arduino API, they kind of hide away a little bit the complexity of what's going on underneath. We have the networking API. With the Arduino Yun, we introduced this bridge API that gives Arduino these kind of REST services. You can do HTTP calls. It adds all these mailboxes, message passing of all sorts of kind of different things. And then we are working on this Arduino Cloud API on top of all of this. And we have been working for a number of years now with these people called Tembu that if you should check out what they do, they have this amazing service that makes it very easy for you to map over 200 APIs of different kind. And so we have a library for Arduino that makes it very easy to interact with all these services. And then we started to build this kind of the core of what I'm trying to call a device UI. So these kind of services that allow you to put like a web UI on top of your device so that you can control it and manage it in a way that's easy to use for humans. And then we have this HTML5 IDE that we almost finished, that we are running on the Arduino thread and will be released very soon. So in a way, we created all this stack that it's either out there or it's becoming out there, it's going to be available out there very soon, that really allow people to build their own devices or build their own gateways, build their own tiny little devices. So I'm looking forward to expanding that and giving it a more kind of coherent structure. So this is, the work we're doing to build this kind of an Arduino cloud. And first of all, clearly for us, it's important to work on something that's easy to use. That's what we've been doing, in the past. Try to build stuff that's easy to use for people that are not necessarily an expert in networking protocols. Building an open cloud, so we're looking at different protocols. So the idea of how do you get two clouds to talk to each other? Can we kind of standardize that protocol and make sure that two clouds built with different technologies can kind of interoperate openly? And also working on building smarter electronics. So how can you make the individual components intelligent? So when you assemble the different circuits, they understand exactly what you're trying to build. And the amount of coding that you have to do is limited because the sensors and the actuators themselves are intelligent. And again, if you come to the Maker Faire in Rome, you'll get to see what I'm talking about. Sorry, I'm plugging all the future events. And also the other thing we're working on is easy to use development tool. This is what we've been doing for a number of years now. So, in a way, this is kind of the direction where we're going. And this is a screenshot from when you set up your Arduino tray. It says, congratulations, you're all set. And actually, I think that in the end, okay, we have the tools, we're building the tools, we're making the tools available, but actually, you're not all set. Because this is, in a way, the technology aspect. But then at the end of the day, technology is used by human beings. And the problem I feel with a lot of this work that people are doing in connected devices, that they somehow, the people, men and women are kind of, somehow in the picture somewhere. And actually we need to bring them back at the center. And so one of the ways I'm trying to work on this issue is to try to figure out how do we actually get to see people using this kind of stuff and how they react, how they live with this kind of technology. So we started this project that we will launch more properly in Rome, which at the moment has a nickname of Arduino Connected Apartment, which in a way is an experiment to create an apartment which will be built on open source technologies. And we are working on this project with Bruce Sterling, which, Bruce now lives in Torino, where we have one of the offices in Italy, and so we hang out every time I'm down at the office, and we share the same, cynicism about the future of this platform. Obviously, he's a bit more extreme than me, I guess, sometimes, and but in a way, it's nice to have a discussion, and so we have some very nice conversation in the past about this kind of issues. And also with my friend Alexandra Sonsino, who is also very active about the discourse on IoT in London. And so we decided, with Bruce, to take a piece of the office which is in an old car factory. It used to be the Ghia factory in Torino, which was abandoned in 1978, and now hosts the Arduino office and the first Fab Lab that was built in Italy, which is part of our office. And now we're going to take a piece of this abandoned office and turn it into an apartment, where the ingredients are, in a way, looking at the tradition of Italian design, which has done a lot of work. In 1972, in this city, at the MoMA, there was an exhibition called The New Domestic Landscape that showcased all the work that Italian designers were doing on the domestic environment. They really changed the world of design and actually put all the Italian design on the scene. So that's considered like a landmark date for design. So in a way, we want to borrow that, but also the fact that we're now engaged in digital fabrication, and we work on open source hardware and software. So we're going to have this apartment where the furniture that you're going to have there is going to be mostly open source. So we're going to manufacture the furniture in the place and place it in the apartment. And so this is part of Open Desk, sorry. We're going to have open hardware and software working there to experiment different scenarios. So the idea is to have a test bed, an exhibition space, so that we can also create small exhibitions. But specifically, you're going to be able to rent the apartment on Airbnb. And because, every time, I guess in the last 20 years, I think I've been to maybe 5 or 6 House of the Future exhibitions, and they're all fake. It's all fake. It's all stuff it's there for the exhibition, but nobody lives there. Well, the idea is that, no, you need to have a place where you live there, and somebody lives there and experience what's happening, and you can gather feedback with their consensus, obviously not like secretly filming them while they're making coffee and you're like shooting a video. So the idea is to open it up to people. So if you want to participate in the experiment, you go to Airbnb, you book it, you come to Torino, and and you hang out with the Arduino people, but then you're there. So in a way, for us, that was very important, to have people really experience this and work with people. So this is the location. And so we're starting to work now, and we're going to announce it at the Maker Faire, properly at the Maker Faire in Rome. And then we have a few things that we are kind of looking at. In November, there's a small event in Torino, but it's one of the few events about designers who produce their own designs. So in a way, there's been a lot of a lot of attempts at connecting designers and makers in different ways. So this is a way where designers are trying to manufacture their own products to be outside of the classic design market. So we're going to try to do something over there. And then for us, obviously, in April next year, there is this thing called it's the Design Week in Milan, which is probably the most important design event in the world. There's almost 500,000 people coming to Milan in a week to see. So we're going to try to do some work there. So if in case you're interested in sponsoring this project, talk to us. And so the idea for me was really to say, there's going to be a lot of talk about this kind of technology. People are going to be building products and what have you. We run the risk to have to go through a lot of generations of products that have been designed without involvement of people. Maybe basically technology says this is what you need, take it. And actually whenever something is designed from the people and what they do and how they live and how they want to live. And also I think open source gives you the chance to participate in the discourse. If you don't agree in the way that big companies propose how a certain way of doing IoT is their message, through open source you can participate in that discourse and propose alternative scenarios. You can design your alternative world if you want to. So I think it's important as makers to be participating in that discourse and constantly showing that there is an alternative way to do things, so that whatever is given to you as granted, big consortium says, don't worry, everything is great, this is what you need. It says, no, actually, no, I think I want this. And I think that's an important role that we have as makers. to be really translating what people want in an alternative alternative proposal, alternative tools, alternative scenarios, and maybe worlds. Last thing I want to ask you, if you happen to be in Europe between October 3rd and 5th, come over to see the Maker Faire in Rome. It's going to be amazing. We had 35,000 people last year, which for the first Maker Faire was a lot of people. This year we have 500 makers from 33 countries. Yeah. Thank you. And well, it's a applause for all of us, not for because you know the Maker Faire is made by people, no? And so this year I expect about 50,000 people, but there's a lot of people who have like much more grandiose visions of how many people are going to be there. The place is huge; it's something like 700,000 square feet. So if you get the chance, come over and let's work together to build our own version of this kind of connected world. Thank you.